500 Marines from the base in Pendleton to stand by to help in search and rescue, airlift support, and food and water distribution. And I want to be clear, we're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping the victims. We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out. And I encourage everyone who has been impacted to get assistance. Go to disasterassistance.gov or call 1-800-621-3362. Let me repeat that number. 1-800-621-3362. Before I turn this over to Vice President Harris, let me say again to all the incredible firefighters and first responders, thank you, thank you, thank you. Los Angeles is a city of angels, and you're now the angels, all of you. You're the angels literally saving people's lives, and we owe you. We owe your families who are also in harm's way, and you're still going out and doing your job. So the people of Los Angeles, thank you for sticking together, for helping one another through an unimaginable loss, and I want you to know, and I mean this, I want you to know we have no higher priority than the safety of you folks in Los Angeles. We're going to keep doing everything possible to help you get through this. And Vice President Harris, I now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what is happening in Los Angeles is truly heartbreaking, and there's an extraordinary amount of trauma that so many people are experiencing through loss of life, loss of their homes, loss of normalcy. And what I would ask is that on this day 7 of the fires, in the midst of the extraordinary exhaustion that everyone is feeling on so many levels, that we stay vigilant. The next 48 hours, as we will hear, are very critical. The winds are going to pick up with wind gusts that may reach as much as 70 miles per hour. And so this is the time that everyone must be vigilant, follow whatever orders you are receiving from your local authorities. If you are in any area where you may be called to evacuate, collect your belongings that you would want to take in the tragic event that you have to evacuate, and please be ready and prepared in that event. Lots of people who still have a home, who are under evacuation order, I know you want to get back home, but this is a time to be patient. There is still so much work that firefighters, police officers, FEMA and others are doing that is about search and rescue. The work that still needs to be done to ensure the safety around utility lines, this work is still very much in progress. And so it's critically important that to the extent you can find anything that gives you an ability to be patient in this extremely dangerous and unprecedented crisis, that you do. But I'd echo what the President said. We have seen acts of courage, heroism, building of community, people looking out for strangers, and we applaud and are in awe of the generosity of spirit that we are seeing throughout the region. And so let us just always again thank our firefighters, our police officers, our first responders for what they are doing to personally sacrifice so much for the sake of others. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We'll now go to the U.S. Forest Service Chief Randy Moore, who's out in Los Angeles. Chief Moore, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Vice President. The situation remains very dynamic with immediate threats to life and safety. One important thing to name is that unlike what we normally would think of with wildland fires, where they're often on the landscape for weeks, these incidents are urban conflagrations, whereas once the winds are over and if containment continues to increase, we would expect these incidents to move rapidly from fire suppression to recovery. Now, in terms of the weather, we're expecting a period of elevated to critical fire weather risk through Wednesday, as the Vice President had indicated. and we're expected to have red flag warnings in effect for strong gust of winds, low humidity, and very dry vegetation for much of Los Angeles, Ventura, and neighboring counties. We're also expecting to have moderate Santa Ana winds, which begins today, later today, through Wednesday. And as the Vice President had indicated, we're looking at frequent winds of about 20 to 30 miles per hour, but gusting anywhere from 50 to 70 miles per hour are very likely. Right now, our biggest concern is new starts. And with this wind event or new growth on the Palisades or Eaton fires, these are high possibilities. So our personnel are working really hard to strengthen the existing containment lines. And also from Monday through Wednesday, we're looking to have minimum relative humidities, which is expected to remain in the upper single digits, somewhere around 20%. So what that's basically saying is that the vegetation will continue to stay dry. And by Friday, we expect several degrees of cooling and a large increase in humidity Friday into Saturday. So this is the good news on the back end of that wind. In terms of fire activity, so the Forest Service remains in unified command on the Eaton fire. The Lydia fire is no longer active, and the Hearst fire is no longer in unified command. The threats are minimal on those two fires. Now, regarding the Eaton's fire, it's holding at about 14,000 acres. Containment has grown yesterday at 27% to 33% today, and there's no new growth, which is the good news. However, firefighters are reinforcing that perimeter, and we'll have to hold that under these challenging conditions through Wednesday. We're looking at nearly 40,000 structures remain threatened, and earlier remote sensing is reporting a number of structures have been destroyed. And we are in the process of doing damage assessments by ground truthing to see what we think that we're seeing from the air. There's 8 confirmed civilian fatalities as a result of this fire, and as of yesterday, there were 50 crews, 375 engines, 16 helicopters, and over 3,400 personnel that was assigned to this fire. The Hearst fire is 95% contained, spread is minimal, and it has calmed down, and the repopulation started yesterday. We still have about 100 firefighters out there doing what we call mop-up duties. That's where they see smoke to put the fire completely out. So we'll continue to patrol the area and do mop-up activities. We continue to support the Palisades fire. We're having moderate fire behavior that persists. We currently have about 23,700 acres that are burned, and the fire is about 18% contained as we speak. There's also 2 confirmed civilian fatalities on that fire as well. We currently have about 115 crews, 540 engines, 44 helicopters, and 5,123 personnel that are assigned to this fire. To date, we're successfully filling resource requests for both initial attack and incident support. And as of this morning, there's about 9,000 firefighters that are assigned to these large fires that we're talking about here. Now, this does not include the many who's assigned to their home units or pre-positioned to their different units to provide initial attack on new starts. And we continue to have firefighters coming from all across the country, relieving some of the firefighters who have been pressing really, really hard. And we'll continue to mobilize personnel as well as equipment. Now, aviation resources that is operational as of this morning, we have 4 Forest Service and 1 CAL FIRE area supervision modules. These are for the lead planes that are going in, guiding the large planes. We have 12 air tankers. We have 18 water dropping helicopters. We have 3 water scoopers. And all 8 of the Department of Defense modular area fighting firefighter assistance tankers are at South Ops or down in this area. 7 of them are in service, and we're still working on 1 that has some mechanical problems on the tail of the plane. That's expected to be fixed and operational later this evening, so for activity or for duty tomorrow. So tomorrow we're looking to have all 8 that are in operations, and as I said earlier, we have 7 that are operating now. A request for assistance has been sent, as I mentioned earlier, to our Canadian partners, looking at mobilizing 2 of the CL-415 water scoopers. They are expected to clear customs on Wednesday, and they'll be available after they clear federal inspections and check rides. You know, it's important to when we talk about aviation, it's really important to emphasize that aviation resources cannot fly safely when the winds are high, like what we're talking about. So this is a situation that needs to be continually monitored. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to closely coordinate among all partners in managing aircraft in this limited airspace. Our National Airspace Coordinator is heavily engaged with all of the people that are concerned, looking at safe operation of our aircraft in this area. And, you know, we're working with CAL FIRE to evaluate the offers that we're getting from our international partners. And this thing is dynamic and is rapidly changing. But given where we are in a year, we have very little competition for firefighting resources nationwide. And so we can still draw upon untapped federal, state, and local firefighting resources. Our initial attack rate continues to be really high. You know, we're staffing firefighters 24/7. To give you an idea, we have right at about 2,000 federal firefighters that are in station for what we call quick response emergent fires. That's the new start. To give you an idea of how successful this group of people are, this group of firefighters are, since January 6th, we've had 235 new fire starts. And we have kept many of those, just about all of them, down to 5 acres or less. And I say that because that's pretty significant considering just the 4 large fires that we've had and the damages it's causing. This team of firefighters, both state, local, federal, and others tribes, have kicked back 235 new starts of fires. So we're looking at moving into post-fire recovery at some point, so the efforts are already underway. We've already provided post-fire imagery maps to the state's watershed emergency response teams, as well as the federal response team for both the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire. And we're in the process of also doing the same thing for the Hearst fire. Now, these post-fire images that we are providing, they're basically soil burn severity, which a team uses to produce a soil burn severity map. So we can look at the type of reclamation activities that need to take place after the fire. The Forest Service is also coordinating with our fellow USDA agencies, including Rural Development, Farm Service Agency, and Natural Resources Conservation Service, to provide an integrated effort for long-term recovery needs. And our research department is also working with the City of Los Angeles and other water providers to provide some ash contamination modeling for water users. So we're likely to have boots on the ground of these teams by Thursday morning after the red flag incident subsides. End of report.
Randy, is there any more support the federal government can be providing support to the firefighters doing this heroic work? Anything else we could do?
I think when you look at the amount of aircraft, I think we provided everything that's been asked for and that's needed. In terms of firefighters, we have what we call UTFs that's unable to fill. We don't have any unable to fill positions that have been requested to date.
Thank you. Madam Vice President?
Randy, if, God forbid, the fires go beyond Los Angeles County, given the surge of resources into Los Angeles, what is your level of confidence that we'll be able to get the resources to any neighboring county in time?
I'm confident that we'll be able to get the resources. We have access right now to about 15,000 firefighters that are not currently being used, that's not needed. So if things got out of hand, and let's just say that the wind conditions blew the fires back out into the wildland, we do have firefighters pre-positioned in a lot of different areas to look at that initial attack. And I mentioned the 235 fires now that these same groups of people have been able to back down to about 5 or 6 major fires.
Can I ask one more question, Randy? Are you hearing any misinformation that's going out? False assertions that are being made about the state of the effort to fight the fire?
Well, I mean, there's always rumors with large fires like this, Mr. President, and one of the things that everybody wants to know is how these fires start. And until the team of investigators conclude their investigations, we don't really know. And so there's a lot of speculation out there about how these fires start, but there's no proof to validate a lot of these rumors that we're hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Now to Administrator Criswell from FEMA.
All right, thank you, Liz. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, you know, at your direction, I was on the ground there on Thursday and Friday. I had an opportunity to meet with incident commanders at both the Palisades fire as well as the Eaton fire. And again, I think you see the images on television, but it just doesn't compare to what you see in person, right? And you see the devastation. I mean, you talk to the family members and you talk to the community members, and they talk so much about how proud they are of their community. And I think one of the things we've talked about a lot is, you know, they say the community is gone, but the community is there. The community spirit will continue to exist. And we had that long conversation with the Pasadena mayor when I was there, and it was, you know, really telling on how proud they are of these communities. And so that's why, as Randy and his teams are continuing to try to put out these fires, FEMA's programs are in place to help support all of these families that have been impacted. I think right now we have about 8 shelters that are still open. The shelter numbers have been remaining at about 700 to 800, you know, day over day, which means there's a lot of people that are staying with family and friends, or they're staying in hotel rooms. And so that's one of the things we can cover. It's one of the programs through the major disaster declaration is we can reimburse these families for the hotel costs that they're experiencing now, in addition to giving them that serious needs assistance of $770 for like clothes. They just need to buy clothes. They left with nothing. And so those are the first kinds of not information, but resources that we're going to be able to provide to so many families. And in addition to the just over 6,000 that you mentioned, Mr. President, that have already gotten the serious needs assistance, we've got almost 33,000 that have registered for assistance. And this number goes up a little bit every day, but we think it's going to continue to rise as we can get into the communities. We have our disaster survivor assistance team members that are going out into the community. You know, they normally walk door to door. In this case, the fires are still burning, so they can't. And so we have them in the shelters, but we've also put them in the public libraries, where we know people are probably going to help register to get information. And then we'll continue to work with the mayor and the governor on other places where we can send our folks, so we can reach the people that haven't gotten into the system yet. And so we'll continue to work with them to make sure that we can support them as they register for assistance. And some of them are already getting notices and letters, you know, that the information has been received, but it's not final yet. There's a lot of confusion about that right now, and we recognize that.
Explain that a little more.
So when somebody registers for assistance and they have not submitted all of their documentation, like what their insurance company is going to cover or not cover, they'll get a letter from us saying you're not approved yet.
They get a letter from, they have no home. How they get a letter?
It's through email. So they get an email notification.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, they get an email notification to check their case and that it's been updated. But we want them to know that it just means we need the rest of that documentation. So I've directed my team to start calling every one of these families that have already gotten this type of a notification, so we can make sure that they know that, hey, we just need more documentation. We want to work with you and help you through this, because it's traumatizing, right? And then to have this bureaucracy, you know, limit that. I'm trying to take away the bureaucracy at your direction. That's how much can I get rid of? This is one of the things we're going to do, is add that personal touch and call all of these families that have already received this notice, so we can get them the assistance that they're eligible for and help them upload the documentation that they might need.
You hear reported by the press that there's misinformation being put out there from some sources, or even people identifying themselves and going on the air saying such and such. Are you seeing much of that, and does it have an impact on the public?
We are seeing some of that, similar to what we saw in North Carolina after Hurricanes Helene, Hurricane Milton. We even saw somebody put out a way to spread a message through phones that said FEMA's going to provide 3 years of coverage for hotel rooms, which was completely false and not sent by us. And so our external affairs team works hard to put out the right information. We work with the community to try to get the trusted voices within the community to help get the right message out and know who they need to go to in order to get this process started. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that try to take advantage of these families that have lost everything, try to apply for assistance on their behalf, try to get them to apply in a false website. Those are the things that we see in almost every disaster. It just continues to get worse and worse. It seems like disaster after disaster.
Given that the winds may pick up tonight and the evacuation geography may change, how are individuals and families going to be alerted if they are now required to evacuate, especially if it happens during the night?
Yeah, that's something that the state and the county have a system to do a wireless emergency alert. It'll go right to their cell phone if there's an evacuation order for their area. And even if somebody drives into the area, it will let them know that they are in an evacuation zone. When I was there, my phone would go off when I would drive into the different areas. When I would drive into Pasadena saying, this is an evacuation zone, we need to leave. And so that alert system goes out and they have their own provider that sends those out. And it's all directed at the county level.
And then do you know whether the requests that have been made of the federal government, local, state, are they all being met, or are there any that have yet to be met?
So all of the firefighting requests that are going through Randy and all of his folks are all being met. We are starting this planning process for the recovery, and we're pre-positioning some resources like food and water closer to the area if they need it. California's resource, they got a lot of resources, and so they have plenty that they're drawing from their own stockpiles right now and don't need ours, but we want to make sure if they do, we have ours ready to go. And so anything that the state has asked for outside of the fires that FEMA would provide, we've been able to meet all of those requests.
Liz, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you very much. All good. So that,
What is your view, sir?
He wants to talk to us. He does. He wants to answer questions.